Good morning to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our video discussion on the hurricane season and tropics for today, May 27th, 2024. Happy Memorial Day to you if you are celebrating. Not a lot to talk about today, so let's get started right away with it. The countdown till June 1st, the first day of the hurricane season, only 5 days away now. It officially begins this week on Saturday. So hurricane season is basically just upon us. And we're basically at the start line now for the Atlantic hurricane season. But when it comes to activity, there is still not much activity going on across the Atlantic right now. Not much activity expected by the National Hurricane Center over the next 7 days. No areas highlighted, nor does anything look interesting in terms of modeling. And same thing goes in the Pacific. Nothing expected over the next 7 days. But there is a lot of activity elsewhere. We'll actually get to that in a moment. But here first, just taking a look at the satellite, you can see how there's not much going on. We have a few tropical waves located across the Atlantic. They're moving through, but nothing when it comes to anything significant in terms of activity that is expected. Of course, maybe as these tropical waves move along, they'll bring heavy rains and gusty winds to the islands and the Caribbean, and that's what we're kind of seeing right now happen. But in terms of anything else, eye-popping, nothing interesting at all. And you could even tell by the upper level winds on satellite, you could tell a bunch of very strong westerly moving winds in the upper level atmosphere. That once again indicates shear in the Atlantic, which obviously, as long as it's persistent, there will not be much of anything significant at all occurring in the Atlantic. Taking a look, though, there's not a lot happening in the Atlantic or the Eastern Pacific, but it is active right now in the Eastern Hemisphere, in the Indian Ocean and the Pacific. All of the activity is located in the Pacific right now and the Indian Ocean. There's a tropical cyclone. This is Tropical Storm Remal. This actually impacted portions of India and Bangladesh. It was not a very strong storm, but it was a very broad storm. Lots of heavy rain brought to some of these portions in India. And then there's also a typhoon right now in the West Pac. There's Typhoon Iwinar, I think. I'm not really sure about the pronunciation. But there's a typhoon in the Pacific, and it's just off the Philippines. I think it actually did bring impacts in terms of heavy rains to the Philippines as well. And this actually did become a pretty decently strong typhoon. It wasn't extremely strong, but I think it reached its peak around 90 knots. And thought I'd give a satellite image of the typhoon right now. Obviously weakened from its peak. Very sheared, very disheveled looking right now, and it'll probably not become too strong over the next several days, though I'm not entirely sure about its track. Let's actually take a look at its track right now and see what it has. Yeah, it seems like over the next several days it'll remain a Cat 1 strength typhoon. It did actually reach its peak of around 90 or so knots. I think it's still at its peak right now, but it's right now equivalent to, I guess you could say, the strength of a Category 2 system in the Atlantic. But it looks like it'll remain just a low-end to moderate typhoon as it moves to the northeast, and probably not strengthen too significantly, I don't think, over the next several days. So that is that with the Pacific. But why is all the activity happening right now in the Indian Ocean and in the Pacific? This is why we talked about the MJO a few times in the past, but I thought I'd bring it up again today because I feel like it is very relevant when it comes to seeing where all the activity is happening worldwide right now. The MJO is right now in the Indian Ocean and maritime continent phase, or it's at least in the Indian Ocean right now, and it is about to enter the maritime continent. So it makes sense why we have that tropical storm in the Indian Ocean, Remal, I'm not sure, but also in the maritime continent as well. And it does look like over the next several days, over the next several weeks, I should say, heading into early June, it does propagate eastward and eventually make itself into the maritime continent and in the Western Pacific. So that tells me that this typhoon that we have right now in the Pacific will probably not be the only activity we get over the next several weeks as things progress. But then eventually the topic becomes what's left after this MJO propagation into the Western Pacific happens. does it make its way into the Western Hemisphere, into our part of the world, in the Western Hemisphere and the Atlantic, um, where we would then watch for development in our side of the world, and that would probably be a lot closer to mid to late June when the MJO begins to make its way into the Atlantic. So we could probably assume around then is when we start looking for chances of activity in the Atlantic Ocean, and very soon we'll probably have our first named storm to talk about in the Atlantic as we head into the month of June. Reminder, though, of climatology, still not really too much to expect when it comes to activity right now. We're really just around, I'd say just around this point in the graph where it is just before June 1st. You can see really not much activity happens. We really only start looking at significant activity to occur really only after August 1st is when activity starts really picking up in the Atlantic. So even if things are quiet now, given how active this hurricane season is expected, I wouldn't expect that quietness to last. But it is good right now that we have quiet, really nothing going on right now. Definitely enjoy it while it lasts, because I'm very sure over the next several weeks things will start to get really active in the Atlantic. Very soon, we'll probably start to see this really active hurricane season that everybody's expected come to life. With that being said, though, nothing much else to talk about. So I'm gonna get out. Let all of you enjoy your Memorial Day weekends. If you're out on the beach today, enjoy. I know that there is some severe weather pretty prevalent right now across the South. I know quite a bit of people died over the weekend because of severe weather. My heart goes out to any families that lost loved ones this past weekend due to severe weather. It's always important to keep an eye on what's happening when it comes to weather, because even if it's not hurricanes, all other forms of weather could cause significant destruction, especially in the form of tornadoes, which we had over the weekend. And it does look like that will persist a little bit to today. So if you're in a severe weather area, watch out. Keep an eye to the skies. I know here in New York City, I'm expected to be in a slight risk, so I will be watching that today, but it just depends where you are. Watch out with severe weather, and always, most importantly, be prepared. As well as stay safe, peace, love, and kindness to all of you. Enjoy your Memorial Day today, and we will talk again tomorrow.